Hello, good evening and welcome to Monday night's Fools Rush In. Before we start, we have to say well done to Vic and Chris and the team at the Official Sports Club. It was a very interesting hour there earlier this evening talking to members of the Trust. Before we hit the intros, we'd like to wish Rich's mum a very happy birthday, as well as this legend. A happy birthday to Mark as well. Bit of a casual chit chat from us this evening, but before we see who is on for that talk, let's roll the titles.
Take my hand, take my whole life too, but I can't help falling in love with
And the live chat is up on YouTube and Facebook. We've got Army straight in there saying, evening all. Yes, apologies. The title of tonight's episode should have read, got to be better than watching Poxford. I do apologise for that grammatical error. Can we play you every week? Ask OUFC fans. Can we build a stand for you? Reply AFC fans. Content you love to see. Speaking of things you'd love to see, let's say hello to tonight's panel. If Army 969 is in the comments, let's say hello to a man who very much loved 1969. Good evening, Nick.
Yeah, hello, Fifey. Yeah, 69, favourite time ever in my life. So all good stuff.
Interesting choice of yours to wear a blue shirt with yellow trim tonight, mate.
Yeah, but it is a special one because it's Help for Heroes, and we're all heroes following Swindon Town.
Just as long as it is, mate. Just as long as it is. I didn't want you to do a Ben-style wardrobe malfunction.
Oh, no.
Forgetting which podcast he was on.
No, I'm loyal, mate. Loyal to this one.
You're loyal. Lovely. Next, I want to introduce a man who has found a retro Fools Rush In jersey and have to say is looking fit. Good evening, Wazza.
Evening, how are we?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Yourself?
Very good. I'd love to show you what's on the back, but I don't know how to rotate and how I can do it in this small space. I'm quite a large guy, so it's going to be like a tanker turning. Do you know what I mean? So, I've found this in the drawer today, and I thought, what appropriate night to have this on.
For anyone wondering what nickname Wazza got on the back of his, it simply said Unit. So there he is. Adorning his red Fools Rush In shirt from our first ever team night out. Next, it wouldn't be an episode of Fools Rush In if we didn't say hello and good evening to Ben.
Evening, boys.
How are you?
Oh, we all. And can I just say, 1969, what a time. A great year and also a one hell of a time. Yeah, good time and great year. 69.
Were you around in 69, Ben? Were you around in 69?
No, but I think everyone missed the joke.
It was just a twinkle.
Yeah, that fell on its ass. Hello, boys.
And we've got one more fool for you tonight. And he seems to be ideally placed for any breaking news tonight. Good evening, Woody.
Evening. I decided to go back to the olden days where I was reporting live from the county ground. And I'm back there now, probably using their Wi-Fi as well. So it might cut out every now and then. Bit of nostalgia for everybody tonight.
So, Woody, can you confirm, have you shrunk or are you next on massive corner flag?
That's one big flag.
And it looks very light there as well.
It is. I'll tell you what, it's amazing what these floodlights can do.
Well,
evening, Mike, in the chat, who just as we click to go live, put plan for devices at 9 p.m, TV at Fools Rush In, tablet, comment on Fools Rush In, phone, keep an eye on Twitter, and maybe occasionally glimpse at ITV, hashtag priorities. Yes, as the title suggests, we are aware that there's something else going on terrestrial TV at the moment, but really, none of us, particularly Woody. Woody, tell us just how much you don't care about what's going on ITV right now.
I didn't even know ITV still existed. I really couldn't give two shits, to be fair. I mean, it's a Swindon fan versus the scum, isn't it? So it's I'll let you guys work out which one's which. But yeah, I'm gonna lie, I've actually got it on in the background. Annoyingly, there's two sides that actually still play football if you take rivalries aside. But yeah, I can imagine 0-0 at half time. It's not going to be a great second half. I think Arsenal would walk all over them now.
Comments coming straight in already. Woody, has someone been sacked? Seeing we're looking at usual corner flag picture.
Sacked or appointed, Steve. Sacked or appointed.
Yes, we could well have a situation tonight where we have breaking news on the future of Mr. Woody the coach. We will wait and see if we're going to find out what's happening there. As I said in the intro, though, I do just want to extend a thank you from me for everyone who wished me a happy birthday on Saturday. I very much appreciate it. But also today, it's very much happy birthday to our very own Mark. He's celebrating. He was hoping to be on tonight until he realised that his good lady wife had booked time off. So he's off celebrating his birthday in proper style instead of spending it with us for 3 hours like I did. And also very happy birthday to Rich's mum, which we also found out about this morning.
Rich's
and
mum.
We know Rich's mum would very much appreciate a shout out from Fools Rush In. So
Yes,
happy
Mara.
birthday. And to anyone else celebrating their birthdays today, happy birthday to you too. The month for the goats. Let's start. So on Friday, Woody, we had two very special guests on. We had Alice and we had Bryony, and they were talking about the return of women's football this weekend. Unfortunately, the result didn't go as hoped, but there was still plenty of positives reading up afterwards, the comments and stuff from people that were there and those that played in it.
Yeah, by all accounts, it doesn't sound like it was a too bad a game. I could argue that it was probably, quite similar to the time before, that maybe Southampton have got, what is this thing? They've got things that they can score more than one goal a game. I mean, I don't know. As a Swindon fan, I'm not too sure what that feels like, to be totally honest. But
I thought you're only allowed to score one goal, and that was it.
Yeah, that was it, a snatch and grab. But obviously, I thought it was going to be tighter. They lost 5-2 in the end. They were 3-0 down at half time, so I guess they did all right to bring it back try to bring it back and to get it to 5-2. And Annie Colston scored, but then water is wet at the end of the day. So, but it's it is a shame, but it was a strong enough, in my opinion, quite a strong enough lineup. Obviously there was, bless her heart, probably not a good debut for that lone keeper. that they've got. But yeah, so at the end of, I don't think they'll be too disappointed. It's just a shame that they've that they've lost by that margin. It feels like a big margin, but and unfortunately Mark and Rich aren't on tonight, but they'll be the ones that will say that, especially in grassroots, and Wazza, to be fair, in grassroots football, 5-2 is not really a big scoreline, to be totally honest. But like I said on Friday, Southampton are a good side. They recruited very well over the summer, and so hopefully the girls can just focus on the league a little bit now. Although I don't normally like that as an excuse, that will be said at some point by somebody, I'm sure.
I just want to take a quick sidestep, if I may, hearing you say that. We've actually heard a couple of times, particularly from Woody, that maybe you've got past experience of some legendary team talks. Is this true? You're muted, Wazza. Textbook Fools Rush In.
Those were the best ones.
The best team talks when Wazza's muted.
Yeah. I wouldn't call them legendary, but they were very motivational for a Sunday league. You know what I mean? Most of the lads did need a boot up the backside, or they were just trying to get rid of the 12 pints that they'd sunk the night before. So they didn't start very well, my lot, normally, and they normally come on in the second half and sort of perform better. But we could put that down to my team talk, or the alcohol was just soaking up very quickly.
Back to the women's team, Woody. You mentioned they're concentrating on the league, and we had a discussion, didn't we, Friday, about false positions and games in hands and stuff. But I think even we've said before about the men's team as well, that there's a way, if you're going to lose a game, there's a way of losing. And by all reports that I've read, that there's just no give up in this team, even when the game's going against them. And that's as much as winning games and women's football being plastered on TV and in podcasts and stuff like that. Just when you get the opportunity to see them play, to see that sort of mentality, that's what's going to inspire as much as anything, isn't it?
Yeah, I think exactly. I mean, I think Alice said it on Friday, kind of compared to maybe even previous seasons, not just last season, that squad that they've got together at the moment is very driven. It does, the heads don't necessarily drop that easily. This is going to sound really strange and very simple, but normally with this season, that if they lose, they've lost to a good side.
Yep.
If that makes sense, rather than just losing because they've given up or thrown the hat in or anything like that, it's normally they've lost to a good side. I don't think that will have too much bearing on when they play Southampton, if they ever play Southampton again and all that kind of stuff. But I just think that they're switched on in the right areas. We saw those who went to the county ground game, they definitely didn't give up in that game. Arguably, I mean, obviously Fife, you were there with us as well, but arguably it was probably quite even ground until Plymouth scored, really. And then obviously Plymouth just kind of exploited the weaknesses a little bit better than what we did. So but as I've said, they're a good bunch. We talk about false positions, etc. I would say that is a very definition of what they've got at the moment, compared to like what we talk about with our current Swindon side, with the men's side. Sorry, that's for me. That's not a false position when it's only 1 or 2 games difference. We're talking the women's team have got 7 games less or whatever, 6 games less than some of the teams in their league. That's a false position. I think the focus now will be just kind of pushing on into the league. I think that's the only competition they've got to worry about now. Once players start getting back and stuff like that, they'll be able to focus. It never helps as well when you've had, I know it probably was the same for Southampton, but when you've had, I think their last real competitive game, if you take Warminster County Cup out of the equation, their last real game was the 27th of November. So it does have an impact, and especially when you chuck in the weather, probably calling off a couple of training sessions and all of that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
And I used the word inspiring in the last sort of lead into the question. And I don't know how many people would have seen it, but the latest member of Team FRI was announced, and we were delighted because we actually got to sponsor alongside Casey Poole. And for anyone who sees the post that her mum does, that's exactly what it's about, isn't it, Woody? Because such a happy girl when she's watching A football, particularly Swindon Town women, and the pictures they were at the Southampton game, and the pictures that her mum posted from that were just so happy to be there.
Yeah, and you see a lot of Casey's stories. She does, she idolizes pretty much every single player that puts on a swim.
Oh no, Woody's Wi-Fi's kicked in. What a bad time for that to happen.
Am I back?
You look
well,
fed up.
we can hear you, but we can't see. Oh, there you are. You're back. Try again.
Right, okay. It's weird because I'm still moving on my screen and all of you guys are still moving. But yeah, yeah. So where was I? So
we literally heard. We see a lot of her story and idolizes, and that's where it went.
Yeah. So she idolizes kind of everybody, doesn't she? And you see her story online, like you said, with her mum posting it. And that is exactly what we all kind of want. I think anybody in their right frame of mind, whether they like women's football or not, surely the community engagement has to be the big kind of plus on anything, And it's, I'm quite proud in the fact that I promoted quite a lot of that even at Aberdeen United, and we were nowhere near kind of the size and the stature that Swindon Town potentially could reach to.
Yeah.
And the one thing we did really well was link with the community, link with the schools and stuff like that. The next step, I think, is really getting kind of the ladies out into the schools. And I know it's difficult because, as Alice said, they've all got their full-time jobs to deliver and all of that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we forget that. I think genuinely we think, oh, they're playing for Swindon Town, so they must be paid. That none of them are paid. So in my opinion, sometimes that's worth more that they're giving up their time than if, say, Ellis Iandolo goes to a school, because Ellis has been told he has to go to that school to fulfill his PR arrangements. Although it's great that we're doing it as a club, if you see the women's doing it, if you see Annie Colston going to a school, if you see Helena Diaz-Butcher and all of that kind of stuff, Alice, all that going to a school, they're actually physically giving up their time to go do it, and all for the good of promoting the game. And I think Alice, we want Swindon to be the number one club, of course we do, but even if that's not inspiring someone to go play for Swindon, that Casey, she hasn't got an age group for Swindon, for example. If she decides she wants to go play football, the one thing that it does do is make her start asking questions like what's around, whether you've got Wharton Bassett, Kingstown Lionesses, all of those kind of stuff. So it just hopefully gets them engaged. But it does start in the schools. That's why I've always said that I would always hit the schools first when it comes to community engagement, just because the schools are now getting onto the idea of girls playing football and all of this. Unfortunately, I still know of a school in Swindon that bans, or not necessarily bans it, but just refuses to do it, which I think is a bit draconian. But it's, but that's what it's going to need. And I think any school who doesn't see this opportunity to get their kids active and involved, whilst we've got a Swindon team that are well in the media, we've got an England team that are doing really well. And hopefully we've now got a club that really want to, bring in the community. And we were only, the end goal, we're only going to reap the profits because you're just getting more and more fans. You're getting more and more people going in, more people getting season tickets, more people buying tickets, more people buying shirts. So whichever way you want to look at it, whether you want to look good as a community club or not, the profitability of being a community club is huge.
No, completely agree. So it wasn't the start that everyone was hoping for to 2023, but I'm sure there is much happier times just around the corner for STWFC. That is for sure. Gents, should we move on and have a bit of a gossip? Everyone's been patiently waiting for this announcement. We've seen reporters saying, it'll be announced at this time, and it doesn't. And then we've had fans saying, I reckon it's going to be announced at this time, and it hasn't. And as far as we know, according to the club, who we know took about a week after everyone else to report on Charlie Austin, so give it time. As far as anything official goes, Lindsay is still at Swindon Town, but as far as anyone's concerned, he's all but gone. We had a chat on Friday about some of the names in the hat, and some more names have appeared in the last day or so. So let's start there. And was a rather interesting name has been the name of social media today.
I was raving about Mark Warburton one night on Friday, but
You were?
if this Chris Hughton one comes to light, that just raises the bar again. You know what I mean? Whether it does happen or whether it, you know what I mean? But he would be different level, wouldn't he? Surely, just an absolute, a decent coach, a decent bloke. You know what I mean? Someone that you'd like to look at the dressing room and you know, sometimes a manager, you feel like, do they have that respect? Chris Hughton walking in the door, everyone would give him the respect that he deserves because he is just a top bloke in football, isn't he? Yeah, if that happened, it would be unbelievable. You'd like to think as well, if he did come, he's worked alongside, you know what I mean, Paul Trollope. Imagine he's worked alongside Colin Calderwood as well. Imagine if he could bring those two back in the door, you know what I mean, as well. Do you know what I mean? A couple of Swindon, you know what I mean, especially Calderwood. Imagine having him back working at the club. I've always said when Colin Calderwood was a manager, do you know what I mean? It was someone that I would look at every time. Do you know what I mean? But we never did. And he's turned into more of a coach, assistant manager now. And maybe I'm talking like we're not even got Chris Hughton through the door and I'm talking about Calderwood coming with him. Do you know what I mean? So I'm getting very excited here. But yeah, Chris Hughton, it just sounds like it could just be speculation, but he's top of everyone's list. And, you know what I mean? I couldn't see looking at the list, there's no one better. So if there's a chance that they can make this happen, it has to happen because that is the statement. He is, experience, knowledge, know-how, a decent coach, respected. You know what I mean? The list carries on, and I couldn't praise him highly enough. I've always liked Chris Hughton, watching him throughout. You know what I mean? So if it can happen, then we've got to make it happen.
Ben, I think you're pretty much fully in the camp of it's not going to happen. If I've caught up on our WhatsApp chat correctly.
Yeah, well, we heard things like first thing this morning when I heard Chris Hughton's name, I was quite excited, and then you hear that there was a few Swindon fans going around just posting his name just for a wind up. So I was thinking, it's probably that that's been doing it. But by all accounts, again, you don't have first-hand notice that he has been mentioned that he has been interviewed. And then I see him as Bookie's favourites, then maybe there is some substance into it. So I'm back in the land of I've not got a clue, to be quite honest. So we'll see how that goes. He's certainly a huge name. He's certainly a huge influence. He's certainly probably got his own players in mind who he wants to bring in and would have an influence on who he wants to bring in. Whether he can work with Sandro in the way he likes to work. He's certainly an excellent coach as well.
I see what you did there. You mentioned Sandro and then called him an excellent coach. Very good.
No,
spreadsheet humour, Ben.
That was completely by accident. And so it's whether he's willing to work under the conditions because Swindon aren't run like any other normal club. So we do have our way of doing things. But if they could bag him, then he is someone who can certainly take us up this season and more than stable ourselves in League One next year. I'm sure he would have a pull, especially if we manage to hold on to Charlie Austin as well for another season or so. And if we get promoted, I would fancy our chances in holding on to him. That we might have a team to really solidify ourselves. But we're jumping the gun. He would be a great appointment.
I love that in one question, Warren has not only appointed a manager, but his backroom staff, and Ben has not only got us promotion, but suggested we could challenge next season as well. Absolutely superb.
This is all coming true.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the Hughton Calderwood combination that's going to take us flying up the leagues and be a championship club in 3 years. Get in.
For anyone who hasn't seen it, it does appear that Arsenal are winning.
Yes,
they are. confirmed. Correct.
For somebody who's not interested in the match fight, you are turning around to watch it a lot.
Not. Just don't start. Don't you start with me. That's because unlike everyone else who has their devices with their big, massive TVs above their heads, mine's over there. So at least I'm concentrating on what's being said as well.
You got yours on the wireless behind you.
Is that, yeah, but yes, literally behind me. Nick, have you seen any other interesting names in the last 24, 48 hours that maybe we haven't paid too much attention to yet?
I mean, yeah, there's
even if it's complete nonsense, is there any names that have been of interest?
There's a name of interest that I would like to see at the club, but he's not even listed with the bookies. And that'd be Fabrizio.
Okay.
I would love to see him at the club. Stuff I've seen that he's put in print about how he would bring the Italian mentality, how he would have an attacking football. Obviously he's done a lot with youth players. To me, that would be a fantastic signing. But to sort of reiterate what Wazza and Ben said, if we could get someone like Chris Hughton, what a message of intent that gives, that we are actually serious about pushing this club forward. So if we can get someone of that caliber, it would just be absolutely brilliant. But
would that be up there in terms of statements with Charlie Austin, or would that even surpass it in your opinion?
That's a bigger statement than Charlie Austin signing, 100%, because that he could build something. Not just for one season or half a season that's left. He could build actually, pushing us forward with a 2-3 year contract. And then he could, we could actually bring on the youth players as we're supposed to be with Sandro. But if you look at our record so far, and we might want to discuss it later, I can only see for the players that we've signed, there's only one you could put in the shop window to speak and get something for, and he's out injured at the moment, and that's Clayton. Maybe we'd talk about that later, but I can't see that we've done anything other than bring that young kid on.
Okay, that's interesting. Certainly something I would like to pick up. Woody, I know it's not been mentioned and it's unlikely to happen, but I'd like to very briefly, if I can, talk to you about a tweet exchange I saw you have earlier with a good friend of the show, Joe, and that was about a female head coach being appointed.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll come on the Chris Hughton thing in a minute as well, if I could.
Yes,
if I may.
absolutely.
In terms of Emma Hayes, I mean, I know she was linked with the Wimbledon job, and I think at that time it probably wouldn't have been the right move for her, given the kind of, I guess, the category of the club if it goes wrong and things like that. It's quite funny because I probably say it tongue in cheek. She probably wouldn't be the right thing for us now. I think the fan base wouldn't be so.
Sorry, Woody. I have to ask. Nick, is this a nickname we weren't aware of?
It's a nickname my daughter has given me. So she was fascinated by my Ocus Road because she didn't think it was a real place, and she's only just sort of learned that recently. So yeah, so that's another name she gives me. I'm Okie to her.
Hashtag Okie. There we go. Sorry, Woody, do continue. I knew that was
coming.
Cheers, Emma. Thanks for that.
We did sign Pokey from Northampton. That'd be great, wouldn't it?
Oh, no.
You'd have to sponsor him.
Yeah, I'd quite happily sponsor him. He was trash.
Especially with our track record.
Yeah, so I think she'd be. I genuinely, and I'm not just saying this because I've been involved with the women's game, but I genuinely think she would be the right type of character for this team. In all honesty, I just don't feel that we would have the backing of the fan base just yet if we appoint. And this is not me sounding kind of sexist in any ways. I just don't. I feel that the fan base would take it really negatively. That it's a PR stunt. That it's, it won't be measured on actually her credentials, which are extremely impressive. People will say that they're, kind of, okay, she's only done it in women's football. But at the end of the day, she's still playing teams against teams. She's still playing teams at the elite level against teams at the elite level. She's got Champions League pedigree, whether that's women's football or not. She's got Champions League pedigree. So I think it would almost be disrespectful to rule her out on the basis that she's a woman, which is what most of the fan base, unfortunately, will do. But do I think it's the right time at the moment? No, because I don't think we'll have the backing. The fans, I think, probably naively, we're kind of expecting, like a big name who's managed, kind of coached in the Premiership, coached in the Championship. I think that's what the fans are expecting, if I'm brutally honest. Whether it's the right expectations or not, that's what we're expecting. I think anything outside of that is gonna have a negative impact.
Let's not forget Phil Brown managed in the Premier League.
Exactly.
Before you come on to Houghton, I did have a follow-up question, just wider scope. When this discussion comes up, it's always, and understandably, and rightly so, it's always Emma Hayes that gets mentioned. I imagine there are other contenders to be that woman to come forward into the professional game.
Yeah, there's, I could probably think of a couple off the top of my head that I've coached against, at the higher levels, that kind of Martina Heaths and things like that. But I think it's even more important that we've got somebody with the credentials that Emma's got. If anybody, not just we, if anybody went down that line, I think it's more important that, because she is almost, if you like football, she's a household name.
Yeah.
Everybody knows who she is. I couldn't necessarily name you all of the female coaches, minus the England coach. I could always get her name wrong though. Sabrina Wiegman or whatever the full name is. She would be fucking class. but I think.
See Clem trying to get the FA to release her from her contract.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just you kind of look at the kind of swing. The argument will always be, well, men coaching women's football, so why can't it be done the other way around? Women run businesses, why can't it be done why can't they run a football team?
Correct.
So I think we just there needs to be a time, there needs to be somebody who does it. I generally don't know if anybody does do it in the lower level, in like amateur football or, from a men's point of view. I generally wouldn't be able to tell you. Maybe that's what it needs first. Somebody kind of in the kind of below the national south, maybe, to kind of make a name for themselves and
start working
push
their way up.
Yeah. But then at the same time, Emma Hayes isn't going to do that because she'll be getting a better wage at Chelsea doing the women's, and she will probably get a better wage than what she would do in here, because there's so much expectation on Chelsea. So, but yeah, so there probably is a few, and I worked with some brilliant women's coaches, obviously not, that have coached in professional football clubs, both in the women's game and outside. 3-0 now, by the way. But I just kind of think that I'd love to see it happen. I genuinely would love to see it happen at some stage. Unfortunately, it's just not the right time now for Emma. But that's because of, in my opinion, and I don't want this to be an attack on our fan base, but I don't think our fan base would be prepared for it. It's probably the nicest way to put it.
Let you have your sound Houghton now then.
So I know it looked as though it was a wind-up. I've seen some sources as well, and I know we all have that suggested that it's not a wind-up and that he is being interviewed amongst others. There's a lot of people that seem to say he's out of reach. So there's a couple of arguments I've got to that. First of all, Mark Hughes is currently managing in this division.
Yep.
The other, he's 64. Like, with all due respect, he's this to kind of have your final hurrah at a League Two project like Swindon. If it goes well, that's such a good thing to finish on. And no coach, although coaches will go, I want to play at the top. I want to manage at the top and all this kind of stuff. Most coaches, and especially Chris, who I've been fortunate enough to be on a CPD event where he's delivered, and especially him, the way he thinks, this wouldn't be just a petty club that he's going to take over and pity on, like, in my opinion, Phil Brown did. But it's kind of, it's an opportunity for him to kind of just finish that off. Because if it goes wrong, he's not exactly going to have a bad pension package, is he? So it's, you know, he's got absolutely nothing to lose here. It's not going to tarnish his reputation if it goes badly.
Also on that note, if I remember right, and I think it might have been you that actually put it in our WhatsApp chat earlier, is he not technical director of something to do with Ghana FA? He could still do that.
He's a part-time, because it's only part-time role, if I remember rightly. He's a technical advisor to Ghana. So, not Ben Ghana, Ghana, the national football team.
Ghana, the national side. Technical advisor to Ben Ghana.
To Ben Ghana. There's a sack if that was the case. But yeah, he, you know, so I generally don't think it's out of reach. I don't think he's going to be asking for stupid money. I think he could see it as a good project. And I think, I can't remember, was it said on Monday last week, not last episode, the one before, why can't we be that club that finally appoints a big name? Like, and I don't mean a big name as in they've played a bit. I mean a big name in terms of, I know Phil Brown could be seen as a big name, but let's be serious. Chris Hughton over Phil Brown is a lot bigger, in my opinion, in terms of his credentials. The fact that he's worked with good clubs at low budgets and good clubs at high budgets. He's just got so much in his career, working with some of the best. I mean, wasn't ready when
the county ground Wi-Fi is kicking him out again.
Oh, there we go. Back.
Well, we can hear you. There you are.
Okay. He's also worked with, like, I think it was Hoddle, Macari, all of this kind of stuff. So he's got a CV that's to die for, really. It's exactly, and he would be the only person, I believe, with that experience that would take up a head coach role. And I think that's the important thing. We talk about whether he can work with Sandro. If there's anybody who's experienced that would be able to work with Sandro, I believe it would be someone like Chris Hughton.
Excellent. Okay, so coaching staff aside, because I know we could talk about who do we think's going, who do we think's staying, but to an extent, we also have to respect the fact that officially nothing's happened. So let's talk about players. And the one that keeps cropping up, Ben, is a Tomlinson for Hutton swap deal.
Yeah. Well, it was first reported on the Real EFL that there'd be an interested swap deal between Hutton and Tomlinson, which would make sense on the pitch. I think it was hinted that Swindon are more interested in the cash deal rather than taking on Tomlinson, which to me makes not much sense because we're short of a left back. Currently, we play a right back at left back, and the only other left back we've got is on loan. We do have Reece Devine as well, but I'm not sure he really exists. A
bit like, what was the name of that Celtic defender?
Yeah, is it Musan? Milan
Musan.
Yeah, I'm not sure. He didn't exist. I'm not sure Reece Devine does. I see pictures of him.
He was class on Football Manager.
I just think he's won like a season. I think he's won that pro season contract that they won.
Samsung Winner Pro?
Yeah, Winner Pro. I think he's got one of them because he's nowhere near a game and he's always apparently injured. So we are short of a left back. We could do with one. I don't want to see Indolo ever play left back again. And we know that he can play left, he can play right. He's got such a sweet left foot on him, but he can use his right as well. Really attacking, can do the dirty work as well. Probably a slight question mark over his fitness. He did pick up a couple of injuries in his last spell with us, but I think it's a no-brainer myself. I know there's people out there who just goes, well, I'd rather keep Hutton, and ideally, well, we would do, but we've got a perfect right back in the Vinier who can also fill in there. But it's just to see what happens. I think we are going to lose players this window, but I have no idea who and what changes and who are they going to bring in. So it's going to be a very busy last 3 weeks, I think. A very busy last 3 weeks. Once we get this,
there's something on that swap deal that you know what I mean. At the end of the day, if Hutton wants to go and he sees it as a progression in his career, it's a made swap. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to get someone in that's going to be, you know what I mean, maybe not as good because Hutton's been quite one of our standout players from this sort of second part of the first half of the season. But yeah, it's at the end of the day, if Hutton sees it as a progression that he's going to jump up to a League One club, there's no arguing. If the player wants to go, he's going to go. Yeah. And it's up to the club to get the best deal possible, which is if we can either get cash or if we can work it that we can get Tomlinson. You know what I mean? Because surely you'd like to think the value would be a little bit more on Hutton at the moment, bear in mind that he's been playing. So surely there must be something. It should all work in our favour, really. So, you know what I mean? The club should be clever with this and try and work out, you know what I mean, bit of money and Tomlinson in my eyes,
So,
really.
On your initial thing you said there was, it's interesting about that because for me, I'd say it's a no-brainer and absolutely take the deal. And for the reason of, yes, Hutton has been our best outlet. Hutton has been consistency-wise, take the first couple of games where not everyone was sure. Consistency-wise, he's been right up there with our best players. But I don't think as a right back stroke right wing back, he offers anything that Lavigne couldn't do in the right position. And then you've got a left back that we know the quality he can bring. I think it offers better balance. And absolutely, if that deal was on the table, I'd be taking it.
Yeah, I think it's a fair argument. For me personally, I worry about Tomlinson's injury record, and there's no good. Like Ben said, if you get him through the door and he gets injured, then we're fucked. We're back to square one, and we've lost one of our better players. Do you know what I mean? I know that could happen to anyone. Yeah. Anyone could get injured. I get that. But when you find an injury-prone player that keeps picking up injuries, that's not by chance. Do you know what I mean? There's something not right. There's something.
What I would say, and that is a perfectly valid point in this particular discussion, but what I would say is Johnny Williams had a bad injury record before coming here. Ben Gladwin didn't have the best fitness record before coming back.
This is where we get a lot of unsung heroes, because from what you hear from when Johnny Williams did his interview, he said some of the scientists and the physios behind the scenes at our football club, he said, are second to none. Do you know what I mean? He said that they've looked after him and they've built him up slowly by slowly. Like last year, we were saying that Johnny Williams couldn't play 90 minutes. But this season, there's been a few games that is not only has he played 90 minutes, he's gone Saturday, Tuesday. Do you know what I mean? And he's been, you know what I mean, the Johnny Williams that we wanted, do you know what I mean, to play.
Ben was that insulted by Mike's comment that he's left.
Mike's upset him.
For anyone who did miss it, imagine if we get to the Grimsby game and Scott Lindsay's still in charge, plays Yandolo at left back, and Austin is on the bench. Ben would be over the moon. So equally linked, Nick, we still got the Jeff Cott question. And again, there continues to be rumours about, is it a straight deal for him, or is there possibly a negotiated deal involving, I've seen Seydou Khan mentioned, and an exchange, which we've briefly mentioned before. Would you be taking Jeffcott on with what you've seen so far permanently?
Yeah, I'll just comment on Tomlinson first. When he was on loan with us, was Ferguson their manager?
Yes, he would have been.
And Ferguson's back there now.
He is?
Yes.
So obviously he doesn't rate him.
Or did he want him to get some experience because he rates him?
Well, yeah, I guess that's probably a fair question. But, you know, from that, I would say he probably got more of a chance of him coming to us than if Ferguson wasn't there, because he's obviously let him go once. So to me, that points away that he could be on the way to us, which I think would be good, as the others have said. With regard to Jepkart, I mean, when we talked the other week, I think the question was, who would you keep between Khan and Jepkart? Because there was rumours of Khan going to Plymouth. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, through no fault of his own, I would let Jepkart go. But if you think
I
it through,
still agree with that, by the way.
Well, I'll do a complete turnaround, and certainly with the likes of Charlie coming in, I think that Jepkart in Wakeling, they will have a great opportunity to learn a hell of a lot from Charlie Austin.
It's very true.
Jepkart's only 22. He's had a previously good seasons with Plymouth, and again, it's what we've said all the way through: give a player the right service, and he will score. And we haven't been doing that. Yeah. So, you know, it's not just down to Charlie Austin to bring out the best in players. We need two things. Obviously, we need a coach that can get us playing how we think we should be playing. and we need then the players to actually deliver it. So there is a massive job to do within the club, and I think that's why we're all excited with the rumours about Chris Hughton coming in, because he's the sort of person that will do that job and know what's needed to push us on. But in answer to your question, I would keep Jepcott. Obviously, Wakeling's on a 3.5-year contract, so that's a done deal. So yeah, this is where we're weak forward line. We don't want to get rid of our decent forwards, and I think Jepcott is a decent player. He just needs to have that bit of help on the pitch to get the best out of him.
Jeffcott is that type of striker that needs the service. He's not gonna bust around and give you a load of, he's that one that's in the 6-yard box, or in the box for that moment, and the service needs to be there. And Nick's hit the nail on the head. People forget that he's only 21, 22 years of age. Do you know what I mean? He is at the early stages of his career.
He's been around for ages, doesn't he?
Yeah, it feels like, and I think that's what people expect. The people were expecting when he turned up that he was going to come in, he's going to score these goals, and he's going to, I don't think he's been as bad as some people have said. Do you know what I mean? I think he's always been there in the positions. I don't worry about strikers when they're missing chances because they're getting the chances. Do you know what I mean? So that's not a worry for me.
Fuck me, if ever there was a coach's cliche.
Yeah. But that is it.
I bet Woody said that from time to time as well.
I saw Woody nodded and agreed. But yeah, Nick's hit the nail on the head. You've got to keep him and put him under someone like Charlie Austin. I think it's only going to benefit him. And the service has got to be right. And sometimes we look at it in games and it's just like the ball goes into the box and it's like he's up against a 6'6" centre half and we're giving him high, long balls to deal with. Do you know what I mean? It's not right.
But the trouble was he's been playing out of his natural game because he's having to hunt the ball down, which he shouldn't be doing that because he's not getting the service. So, as you said, give him the service and he will score goals.
The counter to that, Nick, is if our game plan's designed that way, is the recruitment wrong to have brought him in if that's not what he's good at?
But the recruitment, they wanted 3-5-2, didn't they? So the idea of Jeffcott and Wakeling being up there together, that Wakeling was going to do all the running and the bustling around and being busy. And then you've got someone like Jeffcott who's a fox in the box. We started comparing it, didn't we, to Doyle and Yates?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I see a lot. I know it's weird, but I see a lot of Doyle in Jeffcott. You know what I mean? That he's that sort of mould of a striker. Not with the same goal scoring record, obviously, yet, but Doyle didn't offer a lot. Yeah, he worked hard, but he was just there at the right time to put the ball away. You know what I mean? And that's what is needed. And then you've got that balance, but it just hasn't worked out with Jeffcott and Wakeling playing together, whether it's their age and they're both, too young and there's not that experienced head. But it just hasn't worked out with those two being up top.
On the two we've spoken about so far, just in the interest of clarity, I'm going to go around quickly and ask you all, Tomlinson or Hutton, Jeffcott or Khan, who would you like? If you could only have one from each of those two scenarios, when the window closes, who would it be, Nick?
I would have Tomlinson sell Hutton for a profit, and I would have Jepcott and sell Khan for a profit.
Okay, Ben?
I would have Tomlinson stay on, and I would have Jeffcott stay on.
Okay. Was it?
Why are we comparing a midfielder and a striker?
Just because that was the rumoured swap deal.
I'm going to go against the mould. I'd keep Hutton.
Okay.
And I would...
Also, you do know we're all supposed to agree with each other. We're not allowed to have a different opinion.
I know, but just for, yeah.
Just for shits and giggles.
I would keep Hutton.
Okay.
And just because I feel like we've got to... Oh, no, I can't because I love Saidu Khan. No, I'd keep Khan. I would. I'd keep Khan.
Woody?
Sorry, I was trying to find some stats on Luke Jeffcott. Only because I don't. Sorry, I wanted to have a sound Jeffcott as well.
That's fine.
At the same time, wouldn't keep Jeffcott as well as Wakeling, to be totally honest. And given that Wakeling's on a 3.5 deal or whatever, I think that having both of them is going to be at the detriment of one of them, because whilst we got Charlie Austin, only one of them can play alongside him, even if we do play a two. So, and given that they are, 22 is young, I think it's Wakelin's age as well. 22 is young, but it's not stupidly young. That it's that I think I just think there'll be a detriment, and I think Jeff Cott, although he's young, he's more older in his career than Wakelin is.
Yep.
So I think Jeff Cott will be expecting a lot more first team football, and I don't think you don't put a player like Wakelin on a 3-year contract if you're not going to play him. So
equally, though, on that point, football is a squad game. Regardless, if you're saying in that scenario that Austin and Jeff Cott are the preferred two, they're not going to play every game between now and the end of the season.
No, that's true. But but we're talking about whether there's the benefit of having them both at the club at the same time. I think that I know Adeloy might be going on.
Don't ruin the next one.
But yeah, so I'd keep Khan just because I think Khan offers more in his position than what Jeff Cott does in his position.
Yeah.
I actually think you'll find, and I've just managed to finally found a stat thing. He does have quite a lot of shots, Jeff Cott. I think you'll find that.
Yeah, but is this from the same site that told you we had something like 18 against Bradford?
No, that was Sky Sports. This is off Footy Stats or something. He's not got a bad conversion rate, I guess, but I just think that I don't know. I feel like he'd be taking up too much of the wage bill. I'm putting my business head on here and thinking, does he give us the return that justifies having that much of the wage bill taken up? I don't think he does, unless of course Khan comes in with a demand of stupid money, because he's got, because Khan's quite old, isn't he? Like he's
26,
26, 27.
Older than that, wasn't he? But yeah,
I've just
Quite
turned
old.
33,
Quite
and you're
old.
saying 26 is quite old.
Quite old.
well, when we're talking about Jeff Cott being young at 22, Khan's 4 or 5 years older, so it just shows how short football career is, really, in the grand scheme of things. And the fact that we have Mildenhall on the bench maybe contradicts that, because he's like 48 or whatever. But yeah, so, and I would probably, because of your argument, Fifey, around Lavinia, I'd rather bring in Tomlinson and let Hutton go. If Hutton wants to push up the levels, so be it. I don't think he's League One quality, if I'm brutally honest, but I think he's not consistent enough. But at the end of the day, he'll be a loss. But fully agree with what Wazza said about if we get injured, then hopefully if Tomlinson gets injured, what are we going to do then? But Lavinia is not really offering us a left back option either at the moment. So we're going to be in square one regardless of what happens on that. So hopefully Reece Devine will turn out to be like young prime Gareth Bale or something,
The now retired Gareth Bale.
Yeah.
Fifey, sorry, I know Ben hasn't had his say yet, but just when I think of it, to pick up on what Woody said about Wakelin not getting game time if we keep the two, I don't think anyone thought Wakelin would be playing as much as he has. He come from, what was it, Leicester youth team or Leicester reserves. He come in, he's got a 3.5-year contract, so he can be developed over time. So I think he's probably been getting more games than anyone ever expected him to get. So to me, I don't see a problem if he's in and out of the side as necessary, either to cover for form or.
I agree in theory. I do agree in theory. But when Swindon have said that for years, that we were going to do that with players, and it never ever happens.
Yeah, but we got Sandro's spreadsheet now. Of course, we're going to do it with players.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yes.
Don't forget that. I mean, this is the be all and end all.
Go on, Ben.
I've got my first let Ben speak. I'm quite proud of that.
Okay, that's enough. Thank you very much, Ben.
One thing I don't think we've crossed the mind yet is actually if we can actually keep both the strikers on a long-term contract, maybe the thought of sending one of them out on loan to a lower half League Two team, maybe a Gillingham or something, so they can get regular game, and then having them back at the end of the season, depending how we are with strikers. I don't know. It's an idea, but I'd like to keep both Wakelin and Jeffcott, because I think both of them are going to be assets. Jeffcott's 22 and has 100 league games under his belt already. He will get better. He's just down on confidence at the minute. I think since Ryan left Plymouth, his stocks have dropped, but he's got it in him. And Wakelin's going to be a superstar. He's going through a dry patch at the minute, but he'll pick up. So I'm pretty loath to leave any of them out. So
I guess the other question is as well, though, is if we keep Jeffcott and Wakelin, which we will keep Wakelin. So that's what, a 22-year-old Charlie Austin, if we get 2 seasons out or 1 and a season and a half out of it, you've got the experienced striker in there as well. But what does that mean for the likes of Oscar Massey, Hepburn Murphy, Cal Meadow, Harry Parsons? I think we also need to know where the future for them lies as well, because if you've got a youngster like Wakeling on the bench, who at the moment is miles ahead of those guys, they're not going to get a see in. And then all of a sudden we're going against kind of the whole youth development. We're not developing the young players then.
Yeah, but Nick's point's fair with the Oscar Massey thing, because Oscar Massey is a project, like that young lad. He is coming and he's going to be here, and they're going to work, and they're going to. And back to the Wakelin point, I think he does. I think Nick's point is very valid. I think he needs a break sometimes out of the team, because I think when he first burst onto the scene for us, I think he was electric, he was on fire, and I think he's just burnt out a little bit the middle half of this season, like in the middle half, like we're now at, and I just don't think he looks the same player. So I think dropping him in and out and giving him that little rest in between. You know what I mean? Some people assume that being young means that you'll be fit and that you should play.
No, believe me, it's not true.
No.
Yeah, seasoned pros are the ones that can carry on, because they've got that fitness, they've got that edge, they've got that thing about them. They're clever in what they do. You know what I mean? We all love Wakelin. His energy is busting around, but that takes a lot out of him. Do you know what I mean? The work that he puts in. And yeah, Woody, what you say, like Massey's a project, and for me, I'm so sorry to say, I just don't see enough from Harry Parsons. I just don't see enough.
To be fair, I'd agree now, and I don't think Hepburn Murphy's that good either. But
I think Hepburn Murphy has it in him.
I think he offers a different dimension, Hepburn Murphy. I really do. I think he offers you that raw pace, that, you know what I mean? And I just think he offers that something different, but I just don't see enough from like Parsons, and it's horrible to say. I just think he'll join the bandwagon like Jordan Young, like Miles Story. Do you know what I mean?
Fuck off! I'm not having that. Miles Story doesn't deserve that. That's harsh.
No, okay, yeah, no, but he could have been on. You know what I mean? Yeah, okay, Story did maybe a little bit more, but you know what I mean? He found a way.
At the same. On to contradict that though, why hasn't Harry Parsons come on?
No,
because we've signed the likes of Jeffcott and Wakelin. Yeah. I mean, he might not have been good enough. We don't know what they saw throughout the academy. But is there a reason why we've not developed?
There's another name in the same bracket.
Yeah, unbelievable. There's so many.
I mean, I associate Morgan Roberts more with the wing rather than front. But
I think Hepburn Murphy should be considered more of an outside right as well. I mean, he's still not started a league game yet, and he's not really played outside right that much. He's mainly been played central. I'd like to see him get a run of games there. We'll see what happens with him. Also, we got to remember that Charlie Austin will not play twice a week every week. So there's going to be games that he needs to be managed a little bit.
Ben, we need him to if he's going to bang us to promotion, Ben.
Yeah, well, no, but we also need him to
like. True. I can't. The guy's not long played at the Championship and Premiership.
I know,
level,
I know that, but he wasn't playing.
Yeah, but he's not playing regular. It's a fitness thing. It's because there were other, like at QPR, was he not like behind? Is it Dykes who plays for Scotland?
Yeah, he was. He was on the bench mostly on the bench at QPR, and he came off in his last season.
So they were just rotating those two because they're very similar in their style.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that sometimes Charlie Austin is going to need to have a little bit managed a little bit, because we're going to need him at the end of the season to be firing all cylinders.
No, he's
We need him in this part of the season to be
He's got
firing as well.
he's got to earn every single penny of that fucking contract that is probably being paid directly by Clem. He's going to make.
Don't go down that road, otherwise we'll be in the National League.
We will see how it plays out. We'll see how it plays out, but yeah.
Woody's kind of shot early by mentioning it, but Ben, you said about strikers going out on loan. We all got shared a rumour that podcast favourite Tommy Adeloy might be going north of the border again on loan for the rest of the season. And I think Ned said it best, where he said, all joking aside, the lad's confidence is shot. He's not been given a fair chance, no matter what anyone says. So this could, if it's true, and a loan move to someone like Dundee is on the cards, this could be best for him. Let him go, start scoring goals, and come back and prove that the talent was there to begin with, and he just needed to be given that fair chance.
If he can go up north and score 10 goals between now and the end of the season, brilliant for him, because he's got another year on his contract. So I'll be made up for him. Just go play football, have good time, stay injury-free, and just learn to like football again, because he wasn't enjoying life at Swindon. You could tell him after that Barrow game, he was distraught.
You say wasn't, like he's already gone. Again, like Lindsay, he hasn't gone anywhere yet.
Yeah, no, he's not gone yet, but I see it hard him playing regularly with the amount of... We've just discussed about 6 or 7 strikers. It's going to be hard for him to get game time. So I hope for his sake that he goes off and gets games.
Interesting, though, and I shouldn't... The amount I've spoken about him, I should know. He's relatively young himself. Is he around that 22, 23 bracket as well?
I think he's a little bit older. I think he's sort of about 24.
So we're talking, and I can see Woody was very quickly going into Wiki to find out for us. We're saying about Jeffcott and Wakeling learning. Surely Toby would learn a lot. 26 is he? Still at 26, he could learn plenty from someone like Charlie Austin as well, surely.
Absolutely. But he'll be just training every week, where he'd learn better playing games. I
think if he goes on loan, especially to someone like Dundee, I don't think we'll see him again. I think a loan move will be a cost management perspective from Dundee's point of view, kind of a dare I say try before you buy, because obviously they're in the same league as Ayr. Where obviously we got Adeloy from. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a longer term plan for that if he goes up to Dundee. We've done it as Swindon, kind of bring players in for the remainder of the season, and then all of a sudden they're signing a contract at the end of the season because it's mutually been terminated.
Okay. Nick, Craig isn't here tonight, but he made a very interesting point earlier with regards to transfers, in that our model in terms of head coaches and whatever you want to describe Sandro's job as, if Lindsay has gone, still if at this stage, and we don't officially have a head coach, he's still there to be able to sort of sanction transfers that fit into whatever our model is. The lack of genuine activity early doors. I mean, just for perspective, we've seen, I think it's Stevenage have signed a couple of really, really good sort of statement signings themselves for the level. I know they're the league above, but Plymouth announced their 5th signing of January already. Time is not necessarily on our side if we're waiting to resolve the coach situation first, is it?
No, it's not. But you would hope that that there's a list of players that Sandro wants or the club want to fit this model that everybody keeps talking about, and maybe it is prudent to wait until we do get a coach in before giving them the green light. So, and I know you can cite Charlie Austin as the exception, but there's always an exception to the rule, and I think nobody's got a problem with that being done. So, yeah, we need a manager in basically by the end of this week, and then we can get things moving. If it drags on much further than that, then it is going to be a problem, and we're probably going to be pretty much stuck with what we've got, or you just get the the players here aren't as wanted as some of the ones that have been signed by other clubs. So it would make life very, very difficult. So I think the crucial thing is to get a manager in. That's at this stage more important than bringing players in before we get a manager stroke coach. So I think that's got to be the priority. And, hopefully the rumours are correct and we can see some movement in the next few days. If we don't get it done by the weekend, I think it is going to be a problem.
There's nothing to
Well, I
say
think that was-
deals are not already on the table.
Yeah.
There's nothing to say that deals are not already on the table.
Yeah, that's
you know
right.
what I mean?
That's what I say.
But it's a funny month. Do you know what I mean? And it's like you don't know whether they've got them there all ready to go. You know what I mean? We know with Swindon we're not the quickest to announce anything. We've shown that. We've shown that in the last few days, haven't we, with all the whispers and stuff. So you never know. But I think they're doing it right that you don't bring players in, even though you've got this sort of model where you've got this director of football. You'd like to think that the manager would have a bit of a say and a bit of a, push the green button on that deal.
Yeah.
Or the head coach, sorry, as we should say. But, yeah, we're
So,
waiting.
Woody, you were going to say something there as well?
No, I think it was more just around. This was my biggest fear of, potentially sacking or Lindsay leaving. Would be an unwelcome distraction to the transfer window. I do agree with Wazza. There's probably chances are that there's already been contracts agreed. I think there probably is already contracts agreed in terms of management. I'd be very, very surprised if we haven't got a management announcement by Grimsby, because even then, that's only 17 days left of the window.
Yep.
And although
Good quick maths, that one.
although the majority of transfer activity takes place kind of in that last couple of days, that's normally players that have been teed up, as was said, for a couple of weeks. It's just their price has been pushed there, they might be wanted by another club, and so it's made them turn their head on wage demands and things like that. So, but I know there's a lot of our
no, it's
fans.
dropped again.
Oh.
Try again, Woody.
I'm here.
We can hear. You're back now.
Yeah. Although there seems to be a sense of entitlement that we must know every second because Clem declared ultimate transparency, according to some of our fans, which definitely anybody who knows business knows that's not always the case. I find myself a little bit frustrated that nothing has been said. Do you know what I mean? Absolutely nothing has been said about all these rumours going around about new managers. I mean, imagine if Lindsay hasn't got anything on the table. I kind of almost put myself in his position. He's got half the fan base celebrating that he's left, and he might not have even actually left yet.
Yeah.
The only argument for that is that this might not be down to Swindon. This could be. For me, it seems like this is very much Crawley.
Yeah.
From what you read, from something I read today, and we never know. It could be hearsay. That there was an initial offer on the table for Lindsay. Then they probably all got back to each other and thought, well, hang on a minute, the Swindon fans want him out anyway, so let's lower this offer because he's gone, you know what I mean, in their eyes. So they tried to be a bit clever. And Swindon, I think, are doing the right thing and digging their heels in and gone, well, no, sorry, you offered us this. This is what we want to take. This is the agreed deal. I don't think the club are doing anything wrong with that. Sometimes, like you say, transparency, yes, that's fine. We've been asking for transparency for years, but this is more transparency is more about what's financially going on inside the club, what's happening with where the money's going, where that was what we were all concerned about. With regards to transfers and stuff going on, sometimes you have to be clever, because if you're not clever with it and you release it straight away, someone can come in and pinch someone from everywhere,
and we're not very different to many other clubs. And I think that's probably what's not helping us is it seems that clubs kind of in and around League Two seem to be snapping up signings already.
Yeah.
And which is probably actually what tells me that Lindsay has gone and we are recruiting, because like Wazza said, although a director of football probably would, and especially someone like Sandra Dumacaly probably would sign somebody without manager being instated. I mean, obviously he signed some of the current squad when we didn't have a manager, but I think it's a bit different when you bring a head coach in halfway through the season, because part of the head coach's contract will be you've got to try and get us either A, out of this league, B, mid-table, whatever the ambitions are. So they kind of need to know from the coach what he or she is going to need to work with. And I guess the moral of the story is don't believe anything, until you see that flag.
100%.
Wave the flag.
So a quick bit of fun that I've given you no time to prep for, and I just thought up while we've been talking these transfers. Then, after there was this huge clamour, and Austin's over the line, and we all remember not that long ago where a Jose was signing every single transfer window, and made about 4 debuts for Swindon Town. We saw not long after the Austin news the confirmation that Sean Morrison was leaving Cardiff, and suddenly the fans were, let's get another one back. So in terms of, and I'm not saying of all time because you could all pick club legends. In terms of players still around, if you could bring back another former Robin for this season, who would it be? I'll give you a little bit of time to think about it. Although Woody looks like he's already got his answer.
Scott Twine all day long.
Yeah.
Scott Twine. Lovely. So Woody's adding Scott Twine, so none of you can have Twine now. You've all got to pick someone different. And of course, anyone watching, let us know who you would have as well. A former Robin back in the team. Woody's added Scott Twine. Ben, have you got anyone to mind yet?
Not yet. Can you get back to me?
I can. What's up?
Oh, I'm still thinking. You might have to go to Nick.
Cheers, boys. Okay, it would be a very unpopular choice with most of the fans.
Oh, go on, Nick.
Just for how he puts himself about, I'd have Flint back.
Ooh.
Yes. What a shout. What a shout.
I have to say, I think Steve's got it there right as well. Toffolo is obviously sensational.
That's a good shout.
Oh, Matt Ritchie.
Matt Ritchie's a shout as well. There you go. They're all coming in now.
James Milner as a player coach.
James Milner, player coach, like it, yeah. Ben, what's he got anyone to add?
Matt Luongo.
Back at the start, you've also, I think sometimes we're lacking that little bit of bite in midfield. The Anthony Grant of old would be just someone you'd love as well.
Bring Grant back again, yeah, nice.
Yeah,
wheel him out.
But
Simpson, we'll have Simpson back.
Yeah,
great shout, yeah.
Simpson and Davison up front.
Yeah, we signed Charlie Austin and then fuck it, we'll see.
Yeah.
What's director of football malarkey's easy. I don't know what.
All jokes aside, one that I would be looking at, and this is, I can't say that this is a legend, but one that you definitely be having a look at because he's not getting a sniff, and I don't know where it's all gone quiet. But what's going on with this Jayasimi at the moment? Like, what is he doing at Charlton? He's in and out of the team. Don't get nowhere near the squad 1 week, and then
we need a winger.
I think someone like him again.
Yeah,
he's supposedly going to. Was it Crawley he was linked with? We were saying, or Colchester the other day?
If he's getting linked with those sort of teams, Swindon. Surely, I'd be looking again. You know what I mean? You'd be going. Jerry Yates,
Jerry.
Someone like DJ, or even like Payne's not even getting a look in. Really, he's on the bench all the time. But DJ, I'd be definitely having a look at if there was any chance for someone like DJ.
Link of Cole U, are they making a late playoff run or what? The players they've signed, they've just signed Matt J from Exeter.
I saw that.
I was thinking, well, we could do with him. What's a player? They signed that lanky stringy piece of shit from Port Vale, the one that tried to fight a fight with McCurdy. They've got a few good players who've signed up this window. Just a special note. I bet Si's quite pleased.
Yeah, it is amazing that we look at the Colchester result, and Swindon didn't play well. That's fine, but we automatically as fans look at the table and look at the thing and go, "Oh, we should beat Colchester," but there's no given right that we should have.
You have to earn the right to win any game of football.
Yeah, exactly.
And we've played them twice now, so they'll take points off our rivals.
And finally, that the owner of theirs decided to put some money into the club, and maybe he's just given them a chance to stay up and push them a little bit higher because he wants to keep them in the league. And this is what the owners do when they panic. They chuck some money in, get them right, and then gets them back in again. Paul Mullin, that's a great shout as well. Banging goals in for Wrexham.
Wow. Indeed. Gotta love a Disney Plus documentary, don't you?
Yeah. Now I don't really like Mullin so much.
Adebayo somehow turned into a beast at Luton. Didn't look
Yeah,
that
that
great
was
here.
good one, wasn't he? He was. We had a good game at Yeovil, but after that, it was pretty rubbish. But
I reckon
remember
that's who they
watching one
thought
of the
we were
games
getting
for
instead of
Luton, and it was
Adebayo.
Adebayo and that. It was that Adebayo and Admiral Musqui up front, and I was like,
Yeah.
what? I was like, what are these two doing here?
Oh, well, that was fun. And if you think of any more, please do continue to throw them in. I have one more topic on the agenda, guys. I know, Nick, like myself, you were watching it. I know, Wazza, you saw a bit as well. And it was just to touch on the Official Supporters Club talking to members of the Trust today, or this evening, just before us. Again, thank you very much to Vic and to Chris for giving us a shout out as well at the end of their show, reminding people we were on. That's a lovely touch, and we do appreciate it. And of course, we were talking off air. If anyone, particularly if you want to hashtag let Vic speak, he's more than welcome to have the tables turned, and we'll ask the questions and let him go off on one and release the potty mouth on Fools Rush In if he wants to, and be less the professional. He's more than welcome on Fools sometime to talk.
Do you mean we'll drag him down to our level?
We'll drag him down to our level. He can see what he can see what the well, not so much youngsters anymore, but he can see what people like me are doing in trying to emulate his presenting style.
They all deserve to have an hour off to be like us. Do you know what I mean? They all deserve it. They're all fans at the end of the day.
If anyone would like to see Vic on Fools, I think you should all just tweet him with hashtag let Vic speak and tag Fools Rush In it, and then he'll get the idea that everyone wants him to come on here for an hour and chat to us. Listen, it's fair to say we can't go into the specifics. The trust have, like I say, appeared on Official Supporters Club tonight. They're on Low Strangers tomorrow. They're doing TSTBL Wednesday. Unfortunately, they said that no one could fit us into their schedule this week. So, fair play. If that is the case, it would have been good to get the chance to talk to them as well. But there's plenty of opportunity for everyone to get the information. We certainly can't go in depth in it because we're not involved in the discussions, but there were some interesting things said. So it's just worth us guys maybe looking at some of the things that were said, offering our perspective on it. I don't know. I suppose I should really ask you guys off air. Are any of you current members of the Trust, paying members of the Trust? I know I am.
Yeah, I voted as well. Yeah,
I'd put my vote in.
Yeah,
Nice,
put my vote in.
So it was some interesting discussion topics were brought up. The deal would be a 250-year lease deal with contractual terms written in should a situation arise where we did look to move away from the county ground. It's been a process done over the last 7 or 8 years, really, that's really gained momentum, obviously, under the current ownership at Swindon Town. And the vote currently taking place, which has until 10 p.m. Saturday. If you've not already voted, you've got till 10 p.m. Saturday to listen to all the other podcasts, get all the information you can get, ask all the questions you want to ask. And they will be getting in touch. Members of the Trust will be getting in touch with anyone who hasn't voted sort of later in the week to make sure you've had your emails. You've got till 10 p.m. Saturday to cast your vote. They're looking basically to have a completion date at the end of this month, 31st of January, which is when I think they'll be looking to pay as a minimum, they said, the deposit, if not more of the balance as well, which is very interesting. They got asked about why this vote has taken till what seems like the last the last minutes to suddenly be put to people. And I think it was a fair question, and it was answered quite clearly. They said, look, there's sort of, I can't remember the exact number they said, but there's a fair few hundred pages of legal documentation involved in this. And I think they jokingly said they're on draft about 38 of that large document, with weekly calls between all the lawyers involved, trying to get all the terminology just so that it's as watertight as it can be. And that's why they've waited till now to put it forward, which I can understand people being sort of skeptical with it being sort of late and seemingly rushed through. But if they have been working on it for the amount of months that they've said, it does seem to stand to reason, personally. A question was asked why it's gone to current trust members only, and they've frozen the ability for new members to join, and they said it was to get the consensus of the current members, which was the fair and right thing to do, which I thought was a fair comment as well. And by all means, if there's any of these things that I just sort of made notes as Vic was talking to them, so jump in on any of the points you want to, guys, if there's anything you want to talk about. The interesting one for me was when they were asked about the costs involved. And what they said was, obviously, Swindon Borough Council have a duty to the council taxpayers to get a reasonable and fair deal, which is true. It's a fair point. So they said it had to be valued, and the agreement was that it's a £2.3 million purchase with 100k stamp duty on top. So 2.4 million for the purchase of the county ground. Now, where it got interesting was it's been very much highlighted as the 50-50 split. But when asked how it's paid for, the full sum is being paid from the Nigel Eady Trust. So when a follow-up question came in about, well, where does Clem fit into that then? He said that basically his name as owner is involved in that deal, and his money will be going directly into whatever projects in terms of refurbishment, restoration, etc. come in. So I did find it interesting that although it is 50-50, the money to pay for it seemingly, if I've understood it correctly, is coming from one source. What they said, they sort of broke down how it's going to work and explained that the club currently pay a market value rent on the county ground. And as part of this 250-year lease deal, the club will be paying 50% of the rent they're currently paying, with view to the 50% they're not using going back into the club, whether that be via restoration projects and playing budget, as crucially as much as anything else. The money not being used on the rent has to go back into the club, which I think is very, very good news. And there was very little negative, which may have been how it was asked to be portrayed to try and get all the yes votes. And it would have been interesting to know, much more intelligent people than me and much more knowledgeable people than me might have had questions that would have concentrated on the negatives. The one sort of dubious point that was brought up was that as part of the contract, development has to have been done within 3 years maximum time, or Swindon Borough Council can buy back. And that development has to be worth a minimum £1 million in value. So that was a very interesting point, I thought, because if that isn't done within the 3 years, the council can take it back. And obviously £1 million isn't small change, even in investment terms. So
that's the roof on the bank. That's what the roof on the bank will cost.
That got a lot of comments during the live stream. And obviously they said that Stratton Bank has been spoken about a lot, but they do have the issues with regards to height and the houses behind and stuff, and what they are and aren't allowed to do. They spoke about the annual business plan that would then be given to trust members to vote on. So they would put forward, this is what we're looking to do for the preceding 12 months, but the actual trust members would be able to vote. On whether that's what they wanted, because it's what's important to the fans at that time. And obviously, Vic made a very good point. So what's important to me might not be important to Woody. What's important to Woody might not be important to Nick. And it's about getting that consensus, which I think is the right and true way to go about it. And then they spoke about what classes as the county ground land, and it was James and I forget the other gentleman's name, who was who's a very good talker. It'll come back to me. I do apologise. He won't be watching, but I do apologise. He spoke very well, and he sort of described the picture of what classes as coming under the county ground. And then they spoke about some of the ideas that have been put forward, extending the shop, the museum. There would be cafes. There was mention of the hotel that I think Richard's spoken about in previous when we've discussed it on here. The one that did interest me, and I don't know what your thoughts were, Nick and Wazzle, if you were still listening at this point, was if any work to the town end was to take up room in the car park, there's been investigations into building a new multi-story car park within the county ground site.
Ooh.
Yeah, they. I mean, I'm not quite sure where they meant, and in whether that was going to be further back into the car park, getting nearer the pub, I suppose.
Might be underground.
And it could be and
multi-story downwards, Ben.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you
Just
could
put
go
all the
still be
cars
multi-story.
underneath.
underground.
Car park.
Yeah.
Nice.
The other piece of land is obviously the bit at the back of the Don Rogers, a large grass area, which my understanding is we'll own that.
Yeah,
right
that's all part of it.
up to the road.
Yep.
I mean, quite what you could do with that, I don't know, because I'm assuming you wouldn't be able to build anything on there. That might be a wrong assumption. I'm just thinking of the houses that are on that side in the street, etc. But if you had something like when we went to Mansfield, that sort of wasn't really a fan zone, but it was an area where there were bars, food outlets, fans could mingle, and that worked quite well there. So whether that could be developed something like that, obviously you'd have to tarmac it over, pave it, whatever, because of how wet that gets in the winter.
Yep.
But that could be an area that could be used for that, especially if they're going to talk about extending the town end into the car park, whether it's hotels, shops, restaurants, etc. So maybe that piece of land could be quite beneficial to us.
The last point I wrote down was the need to turn the whole thing, not like the stadium and the surrounding ground, into not just something. I think Woody may have used these words before in the past, not just something that makes money between 3 and 5 p.m. on a Saturday, but something that's generating revenue 7 days a week. So with all those points, I appreciate I've kind of read through the notes I made, but if any of you want to jump in on any of those things, the stuff that they've been talking about adding, what could be taken away, etc., you want to talk about the money, now's the perfect time to do so.
Fifey, I wasn't quite sure what they meant with the rent for the ground, because if all the money's coming from the Edie Trust to buy it,
yes. So my understanding, and again, I have to confess, as much as it might shock people, I am neither a businessman, a counsellor, nor a lawyer. But my understanding is, at the moment, Swindon Town pay rent, I would presume, to Swindon Borough Council.
Yeah.
But the purchase of the ground would mean that the trust own 50%, and whatever the entity that represents Swindon Town own the other 50%. So Swindon Town Football Club would have to pay them to play at the ground. So for round figures, if Swindon Town are paying Swindon Borough Council 100k a year, say, to play there, then they would be paying the two joint entities in this joint venture 50k a year, with the other 50k going back into the club, is my understanding at least. Yeah,
it just seems I presume it's an accounting thing in whether it's all goes down with tax in how your assets. They have to pay something. You're taking it out from one account and paying it back into another account for the same for the club, which it doesn't make a great deal of sense to me. But that's being very simplistic. They would, I mean, I would try and answer that as best as I can with, again, my very simple intellect. I don't have the knowledge behind it. Those sorts of questions, and the trust are asking for those sorts of questions to be put to them so they can answer it. But in very simple person terms, that's how I understood it. Yeah, I agree with you, but it just seems if the club own it, why are they paying rent on something that they own? That's just seems strange to me. That's all. Because Swindon Town Football Club wouldn't own the ground, I think is the point. The joint venture owns it. Yes. So they have the money be going back. The money that they pay for rent is going back into the club. Yes. So it's just the money that's not being spent on rent. That is right. At least that's my understanding. I might be wrong. I will just try and answer that as best as I understood it. Yeah.
Did they mention anything about because I didn't watch it, unfortunately. But did they mention anything? Because obviously the original talk was about fans buying into it, and given that ED's now, the ED Trust now putting a lot of the money forward, is that still going to happen?
Yeah, they said that the share option will be available
very
soon. To
soon.
be able to buy a share in the club or the joint venture or however you want to head it, you have to be a member of the trust.
Yeah.
And I think as soon as they've got, again, from recollection and from understanding, as soon as they've got the completion, the completion done through the trust's new website, they will then allow you to, because they're still doing the plan 1969, like £19.69 thing for it per share. That will be available from that point onwards, is how I understood it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a minimum 1969, isn't it? People can put in what they want.
Of course, yeah.
For a share.
I guess I kind of get, because it's a direct split as well, isn't it? It's not a majority, there's 50-50.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that probably makes sense as to why the club have got to pay rent. It's a bit like if you get a mortgage and you do like one of those kind of 50% own, 50% rent type mortgages. Yep. So yeah, I think I'm not too worried about this multi-story talk. This is Swindon Council, so that won't happen until 2076 or something.
Well, interesting you say that, because a question was asked if any planning applications had gone in advance for what to do is this first development within the 3 years, and the worry that Swindon Borough Council being the way they are, and they said we're not suggesting they're like that, but everyone has their opinion of them. Could they try and sort of veto and delay everything just to be able to claim it back anyway?
I'd be very, given the complexity behind built, like if we look at Whale Bridge when that was built, the one opposite what used to be the Thistle Hotel.
I know I don't live in Swindon, but I'm familiar with the local geography. Yeah,
familiar with the local car parks.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the car parks. Yeah,
car parks.
Hey, steady, what route you're going down there?
But I think that's a long way off. The amount of disruption that building a multi-story would cause, especially around that area.
Well, I understand that there's a new bus terminus being built, and it's caused absolute carnage.
Yeah. Although I think they probably manage that relatively well, but it's but given the fact that this building would have to take place during
Woody's Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Oh, he's back again. He's back.
Given the fact that it would take place during the football season as well, I just think it's too much of I think it's a bit of a pipe dream to have a multi-story there. But I agree with Nick. I think no reason why we can't have something like a fan zone behind the Don Rogers. Kind of it doesn't. If you think about, it'd be quite hard to get a permanent structure in there, especially if there's one that takes up more room than the trees. There's a few trees there now, isn't there? That take, it'd be quite difficult because I think there's about 6 houses impacted down there. I remember when we were originally on and Christian was on about somebody needs to buy that fucking house behind Shrivenham Road, because it is just that one on the corner, isn't it? That's the major issue. Somebody just needs to buy that person.
They did actually speak about that, and they said that when it came to looking at that side of things, if they decided it was the best option to sort of project, they would potentially. He said, and then Vic obviously went, well, that's all good and well, but your issue is getting the person that lives there to sell it.
Yeah. Although that would be potentially $250,000 of that first $1 million that you're looking to invest.
Yeah.
So it's it's exciting. It's good that there's something finally being kind of done, and I know I saw all the paperwork that was involved with Oxford City taking over their ground, and that was enough for that kind of, for that kind of small area, let alone, a massive club like Swindon. So, but yeah, it's it's good. I might have to watch it back now, because I was worried that, and this is no disrespect to the trust or anything, I was worried that it was kind of going to be a lot of blanket answers and stuff like that, kind of leaving everybody in the lurch. But to be fair to him, it does sound like there was actually
they did
quite
cover
a lot of information.
They did cover a lot of topics. It's fair to say that they covered a lot. Like I say, it was all very focused on the positives, and maybe that's just me being cynical. Maybe there are very few negative aspects to what this vote is for. like I say, I'm not nearly intelligent enough and know enough about it to be able to say for sure. But that they did focus on Neil is the other guy that was on. He was the other gentleman. He was the one who was speaking a lot from the legal perspective.
Yeah.
And he spoke for
Roy's Wivy or whatever it is, isn't it? That's representing them.
I don't know because he wasn't an actual lawyer.
Oh, was he not? Okay.
No. He does a lot of contract negotiations in his place of employment, but he's not. He said at the very start, "I'm not a lawyer."
Fair enough. I was going to say, so do I. I do lots of contract negotiations. So I get myself in. Since they don't want to come on here, we'll go to them.
We'll go to them.
We can always put you forward, Woody, and vote you on.
Hashtag vote for Woody.
Yeah.
Was it I don't want to come across as blowing too much smoke, but you're an intelligent guy. You've got your ear to the ground as well. I covered an array of topics that were spoken about there. Is there anything you wanna come in on, whether it be how the money's being paid out, or whether it's the stuff like the extension to the shop and the museum and the cafes that have all been mooted as being added in?
It's all it's brilliant. It's brilliant to hear, isn't it? Because it's not something we've heard for this club, probably not in my lifetime. Do you know what I mean? Of the positivity coming out of it and stuff like that, that what could happen. Like Woody said about the council, it's one of those.
I'm just going to mute Ben. He's turned his camera off, but not muted himself, and I don't think we need to hear whatever they're talking about.
Oh, is there an argument?
I'm not suggesting there's an argument. I'm just suggesting he's obviously disappeared for a reason.
But yeah, no, I lead on to what Woody said. It's difficult because I listen to these sort of things and I don't massively get involved. I've just always been more about the football side of it and everything like that. But it's all brilliant news for the club as a whole, that it's pushing in the right direction, that there's things that we can do to make it all better. And fair play to these people that you know what I mean, because I find it hard enough sometimes to just support in Swindon Town Football Club. It puts you through the ringer, doesn't it? And just go in and watch the football. But fair play to these people that are in on these sides of what goes on behind a football club. Because
this was the thing that actually kind of changed my opinion on how the interview was going, because I am generally very cynical about these things. When you actually hear, you know, the fact that you forget these people, the likes of Neil and James, are doing it in their spare time. This isn't their job to do it. Yeah. This is something they're doing in addition to life. You know, and it's not like they're doing something fun, like sitting with you guys twice a week for a couple of hours chatting absolute nonsense. They're actually doing something serious.
What we do here is a great laugh, and we have a great time doing it. But these people, like you say, they take time, they take money, they take their effort, they take their, you know what I mean? And we're all busy, you know what I mean? We all have busy lives, family and everything like that. And they find time to be able to do this for our football club. Do you know what I mean? Which is, and you know what I mean? Like you say, you can only take their hat off to them. Some people
fair
don't
play.
agree, but unless you're on the inside dealing with it, like you've just said, Fifey, a lot of people are very cynical about it and sometimes give these people a bit of a hard time. But you know what I mean? You can't give them a hard time because, like yes, they take their fan. We're all fans, but they take that to the next level. That how much they care about the club and how much they want to put the club into a better position. And yeah, you can only take your hat off to them and say fair play.
Yeah, agree with that 100%.
Absolutely.
I think Joe makes a great point as well. I don't know if you flashed it up, Fifey.
I did, but I will happily do it again.
The last point, you know, it kind of latches on to the good news that we did have for Foundation Park. You know, all of that came from, I mean, Nigel Eady, geez, like, if we want to talk about legends, you know what I mean? We chuck all the players out the window, don't we?
Yeah.
You know, and it's
that guy's left a legacy, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Do you know
why is he not getting a statue?
Well, so this was
that was brought up actually.
Oh, was it?
So they said if his full trust is paying for the whole thing, which they've said it is, would they be looking at maybe the Nigel Eady County Ground, naming the whole stadium after him, or changing the name of the Stratton Bank when it's redeveloped to make it his stand? And they said nothing is off the table, and it is something that has already been discussed at length. So I think something is absolutely being named after him. It's just what is being named after him.
Yeah. It's the impact of that. I know. Obviously, it's easy for us to say with him, with the amount of money he had, but the impact that single gentleman has had on this football club, Foundation Park is absolutely beautiful. It's miles above League Two in terms of the facility. The fact that we've got the extension, and now we're talking about redeveloping the ground next to it, whilst we're still a League Two club, as Wazza said, it almost feels like it should be too good to be true, but it is thanks to, as Wazza said, to all of those people that have worked really hard behind the scenes to kind of push it. I just hope, and I'm sure they are, this is not me doubting anybody's credentials. I just hope that it is everybody's in it for the right reason. There's nobody that's going to come out massively profiteering from it.
Well, so they spoke about that briefly as well, and from the
I just need to watch it, don't I?
From the trust's perspective, obviously, because of. And they explain why it's the trust doing it and not the official supporters club, for example, and how they're registered as. And again, this is beyond my simple ability to understand. But because of how the trust is set up, nobody can. They can't pay. Yeah. They can't pay. So if for example they were to sell the county ground and move elsewhere, they couldn't use that money to pay members. That's not how it works. Yeah. So they did go into that and explain. So no, that was covered as well. I would recommend watching it, and if you can't, go back and watch that one again. That they're on Low Strangers tomorrow, TSTVL Wednesday. There's still plenty of time to get questions into them if you have more. But yeah, Vic's one was definitely well worth a listen. If you've got 55 minutes to go back and listen to it again, the two gentlemen spoke very well. And obviously we all know that Vic knows how to ask a good question as well. And to be fair to him, so we laugh. Woody's done a good impression of Rich at times tonight, where he's been reading the comments and stopping talking. I've been distracted, keeping an eye on the football. Vic did remarkably well looking at Twitter to see if there were announcements while presenting it. And the only way anyone actually knew that was happening was because he kept mentioning it. He was looking for a statement. So I mean, his presenting
that's all
skills.
All those years of BBC training, isn't it? It's just kind of.
But one thing also that they said, Fifey, which was interesting, the sort of the negotiation with this 38th review of the legal pack. And I'm sure I heard it right, and they said that Rob Angus obviously used to be on the trust. And I think they used the word was getting frustrated on how long it was taking, because basically they were tying everything down to make sure that there were no, as much as you could say, they're 99 point whatever % sure they've got the document correct. They said it will never be 100% because there's always something you don't think about. But they were tying the club down to make sure that there's no way that we're going to, put ourselves in a bad position. So, and that's one of the reasons it's taken so long.
Yeah. Absolutely, and the way they described it, and I think it kind of feeds into what you were saying earlier, Woody, is when they've put this whole thing together, they've said, okay, we need something that stands up. And the guy actually turned around, he said, if Clem was to sell at some point, because he's not going to be around forever, Clem sells, and we end up with someone who treats the club, and I think the words used were like previous owners not too long ago. Without naming names, I think was the word used. We need something that holds up under that sort of regime as well. That's the hypotheticals they've been working to.
50-50, they were very clever with the money, weren't they, when it was under the previous owners, that they were not giving a lot away, with regards to it, because they wanted it to be in the right hands, that they wanted it to be away from people that were in it just for profiting reasons and stuff like that. Because there were talks that he was trying to get the money or trying to get his hands on it, but they've done it very, very well, and it should. And like you say, it's in the right hands with the people with the right way of what they want to do with it, and that's 100% what it should be.
On that point specifically, I'm sure this isn't aimed at us, because we said from the outset, look, I've said probably 5 times, I don't have the intellect to properly comprehend everything, and only 3 out of 5 of us actually watched it. Mike said, I thought they communicated really well. It seems to just speak to a range of legal specialists to sort this, and a load of our fans with their MVQ in woodwork think they know better. I'm sure that's not aimed at us. I'd like to think that wasn't aimed at us.
I can't be trusted with woodwork, so that's definitely not aimed at me.
Oh dear me. Listen, unless anyone's got anything else, I think that pretty much that covers everything. Again, watch Vic's show back. We'd love Vic on if he's watched this, or Chris has watched this. We'd love Vic to come on full sometimes. I think it'd be a right laugh. But yeah, go back and watch his show with the Trust that was on at 7:00 this evening. It's available on their YouTube channel. It'll be available on Facebook. I think they do Twitter as well now. And of course we'll be back on Friday to I'm sure we'll talk some more about it. We'll be tuning
Talk about
in.
our new manager.
We may well have a new manager. We might have a new signing. But one thing we've definitely got is a game to talk about on Friday as well.
Yes.
So until then, thank you very much for watching and for all your comments. If you are listening back or watching back after this has been out live, thanks for taking the time to do that as well. But from myself, from Nick, from Wazza, from Woody and from Ben, thank you very much for joining us, and a very, very good night.
Take my hand, take my whole life too, but I can't help falling in love.